Hi, I'm Kat and this is my Reading Quest TBR. If you haven't heard of the Reading Quest, it is a brand new readathon created by A&T, did I say that correctly? From the blog Read at Midnight, and it is basically a video game. So there is a game board which I have completely filled out, and there are 4 classes and you pick one and read that entire class. And you can't read any books from a different class until you have finished the first class you chose. And there are also side quests in the middle that you can read anytime you like. And the fun thing about this readathon is there is a point system, and at the end there will be a winner crowned. So you get points for reading a book, you get extra points if it's by a marginalized author, and you even get points for tweeting about the Reading Quest online. I've downloaded a template for the points that you accumulate while reading, and I will link that down below. So the class I first chose to conquer is Rogue. Yes, I did come up with very quick costumes for each class. So the idea of the Rogue class is to read underrated books. So the first tile in the Rogue class is to read a banned book. And I chose The Wizard of Oz. This was a banned book at some point, and I've had this for like a year and a half. I bought it while I was in America because this is the Barnes & Noble edition. It's still in the plastic, it's still got its sticker, which is on the plastic. So I'm finally going to read this. It's going to be my first book of the readathon. The second tile is to read a book with a partially obscured face. I chose Roseblood by A.G. Howard. As you can see, she is wearing a mask. If you can see, it's still in its plastic because I got it from Owl Crate. Third is to read a book with less than 500 ratings on Goodreads. And I chose V for Violet by Alison Rattle. I got this last year at the YA Circle's Christmas dinner. The YA Circle girls gave everyone a free book and we didn't know which book it was because they were wrapped up. And this is the one I got. And last I checked, it only had 51 ratings on Goodreads. Fourth is to read a book published by a small press. And I chose Something in the Blood, Vampire Tales with a Christian Bite by the Literati. Literati? I don't know how to say it. This is published by Morningstar Publishing, which I'm pretty sure Morningstar is to do with Lucifer, isn't it? So a little confused as to why a Christian publishing house chose Morningstar. And I have this book because, you know, I was one of those crazy vampire fangirls, and years ago one of my friends went to like a conference thing and they were selling this book. She thought of me, so she bought it, and I still haven't read it yet. And the last book on the Rogue path and the first tile on the Mage path is read a book with a one-word title. And I chose Flawed by Cecilia Earn, which I won a while ago from Jem from Bookish Romantic on Twitter, and I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. So, one word, Flawed. And yes, this is also signed. Now, if I happen to finish those books, I will be going on to the Mage path. Yep, my Mage costume is my Ravenclaw jumper, because Ravenclaw for life. Flawed is the first tile on the Mage path. The second tile is to read a book that contains magic. So I finally bought King's Cage in hardcover, so this book has magic in it, so it's my magic book. Next is read a book based on mythology. I finally found the Heroes of Olympus box set, so I can read The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. Next is to read a book set in a different world. I chose Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. I read something about sirens being in this book, so I'm pretty sure it's in a different world. And yes, this is in plastic as well because it's another Owl Crate book that I haven't opened yet. And the last tile on the Mage path, which is the first on the Knight path, is to read the first book in a series. This book was on my Booktubeathon TBR and I didn't get around to reading it, so now it's on this TBR and I may not get around to reading it again, but it's on my TBR, and that is These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is the first book in the Starbound trilogy, and hopefully I'll read it. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get here, but let's continue on to the Knight path. So I didn't have anything knightly, so I just went with a character that is very knight-like. So These Broken Stars is the first book on the Knight path. The second is to read a book with a verb in its title. Now, if I'm remembering my English classes correctly, a verb is a doing word, yep. So I chose That's Just the Way We Roll by Scott Gardner. I won this a while ago from Dimmicks Adelaide and haven't read it, and the word roll is a verb, so Yeah. Next is to read a book with a weapon on its cover. Now I actually double checked with Amy Kaufman on this one because I wasn't entirely sure what the things on the people were, and she assured me that they were weapons, so I chose This Shattered World by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. These two people on the cover have weapons on their side, so weapons. Next is to read a book with a red cover. I've only recently bought this book because me and Kate walked into a book outlet store and they just had a bunch of Buffy books from 15 years ago. So of course I bought them all. And the one with the red cover is Tales of the Slayer Volume 2. I already have Volume 1, so it was nice to find Volume 2 just randomly in a store. So this is a collection of short stories about Slayers who aren't Buffy. In this one we have a Slayer from Japan, France, the Caribbean, England, America. I really enjoyed Volume 1 because it was nice to, you know, learn about Slayers who weren't Buffy, so hopefully Volume 2 is just as good. The last tile on the Night Path, which is the first on the Bard Path, is to read a book with a TV or movie adaptation. So I did the Harry Potter readathon this year and I read one book. That was Order of the Phoenix, so I've got to continue on sometime with Half-Blood Prince. The last class is The Bard. Get it? Bard and Bellas. So the first book on the Bard Path is Half-Blood Prince. The second tile is a fairy tale retelling, and I chose Dorothy Must Die Stories Volume 2. I have read Volume 1 and I have read the first 2 books in the series, and I've had this one just sitting there. Next is a book with striking typography. I'm probably stretching this one a little bit just so I could include this, but it's the last book in a series that people have been yelling at me to read for a long time. And that is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Up the top here, it's got Harry Potter and really fancy typography, so that's the one. Next is a book translated from another language. Now I don't actually own any books translated from another language into English, so if I do somehow manage to get to this last tile on the outside of the path, I will buy Ruby Red. I've heard it's really good and it was originally in German, so it'll be translated to English for me. And the last Bard tile is read a banned book, which is The Wizard of Oz. I most definitely won't get to any of the side quests, but it was fun to pick out books for them anyway. So the first side quest is Potions. Read a book concocted by 2 or more authors. I don't own this book, but I own the first 2, and those 2 books are in this TBR. So if I get to this side quest, I will be reading Their Fractured Light by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. The second side quest is Multiplayer. Buddy read a book. If I do this challenge, I will be reading the YA Circle's September book of the month, which I was told what it was, but I can't remember what it is right now. Third is Grind. Read a book with 500 or more pages. Now I know this book is terrible to pick on a readathon, but it's got more than 500 pages. It definitely has more than 500 pages. And that is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I've been interested in reading Outlander since the TV show blew up, and I didn't actually pay for this book. Every month Stimmix Adelaide puts out their damaged books, and this was one of them. As you can see, it doesn't have a back cover, and this has been ripped along here. But all the pages are in there. As you can see, this is the author's note, which is on page 864. So one day I will read this, and if I like it, maybe I'll get a non-destroyed copy. Next is Respawn. Read a book you previously DNF'd. Now, I don't like this book, and I never had time to finish it when I had to study it, but I did write an essay on it and got a pretty good grade. And that is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. This is like one of the very few books I have started getting destroyed because I don't like it, I don't care about it. But I did leave my bookmark in there. I didn't even get halfway, but I wrote an essay on it. So it can be done. I most definitely won't get around to it in this readathon, but you know, I made the effort to put it on the TBR. Next is Animal Companion. Read a book referencing an animal in its title. So I'm currently reading the last book in the Grisha trilogy, but I actually bought this book before I'd ever bought the Grisha trilogy. Because you know, I was at LAX and it was hours before our flight to go home, and I had some American money left, so I walked into the airport bookstore and bought Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This has just been sitting on my TBR for so long because I wanted to read the Grisha trilogy first, and I'm almost finished with the Grisha trilogy, so I can finally get around to Six of Crows. And if I don't end up reading it during this readathon, it'll probably be on my top of my TBR after the readathon. Next is Minigame. Read a graphic novel, novella, or poem collection. Now as far as I can see, I don't own any on my physical TBR, so if I get around to this one, it'll just be like someone give me a recommendation and then I'll go out and buy that one. But I probably won't get around to it, so. Next is Expansion. Read a companion novel or short story. Now I don't own this one because I need to buy it in hardcover, but this is the second book in a spin-off series, and that is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Next is Time Warp. Read a book either set in the past or the future. Now I'm pretty sure this one is set in the future and not in some alt universe, and that is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. Yeah, I know, I was such a huge fan of Twilight that I've read these multiple times, but I've never read The Host. And I didn't even buy this one either. This is another damaged book from Dimmix Adelaide. And lastly, right in the middle of the board is Open World. Read whatever you want. So I have a lot of books on here, so I'm probably not going to get to that, but you know, it's there if I want to read a random different book. That's a lot of books. Now as I said, I'm definitely not going to be able to read all of those in the readathon time, but I'm hoping to finish at least the Rogue path and hopefully make a dent in the Mage path. Thank you for watching. If you are participating in the reading quest too, please link your TBR down below so I can watch or read it. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.